You see this? You see this? This is the new Soul Not For Sale shirt. This one, my wife bought it. It's for her, but she's not here right now, so I took it. Let's get into the video. Yuri Benzanov. He has a warning for America that he made in 1984. No pun intended. He had this prediction. Well, I mean, it seems to be a prediction now, but it was a warning to America of what could happen what is happening with Russia at the time, because that was the main player. It has 4 stages, this warning that he's talking about. It goes demoralization, destabilization, crisis, normalization. Now, I find this video very interesting because we kind of face something like that now, and it goes in cycles, I believe. And I'm going to break it down as he goes along, but it's a very, very interesting video. You know what else is interesting? Oh my gosh, you know the store. This is always very interesting to me. We got Soul Not For Sale hoodies, shirts, t-shirts, women's v-necks, mugs, kid sizes for those beach days where you want some, I was going to say a liberal, but you might be liberal and your soul's not for sale. Who knows, And we got tank tops here, men and female tank tops. All right, let's get into the video. Also, we got the anti-WEF uniform that you can put on. Give your middle finger to Klaus in style. But as you know, every single purchase helps us fight against demonetization, helps us fight against them limiting our videos for no reason. And I shouldn't say no reason, because the video that I'm about to make, that could be a reason. And can't hate on them for that. But let's get into this video. Very, very interesting stuff.
And disinformation and active measures. Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets used the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. The next stage is
So now let's just go on to exactly what he was just talking about. Let's just get meanings of words because I think it helps a lot. So what does demoralization mean? To cause to turn aside or away from what is good or true or morally right. Now, hasn't this happened in our society? So much so. I've watched it happen in the Black community. I mean, just being in it, being around it, listening to the music. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in schools over the years. And it's constantly upping its game to the point now where we're seeing, singers like Sam Smith. He literally was, or even Lil Nas X, he was dressed as the devil, taunting people who are of any kind of religion. His song is called Unholy. Like, we're at the point where, Megan Fox can tell you that she's doing blood rituals with her boyfriend. They're drinking each other's blood and nobody bats an eye anymore, right? But I know this is the meaning of demoralization, but let's go even more so. What are some other words for something like demoralization? Confusion, intimidation, depression. Now think about that. Like, what does our society look like right now? There's a lot of confusion, a whole lot. There's a lot of intimidation coming from one big faction that we all know about. And there's a lot of depression in us and the lives that we have to live and the things that are being presented to us in terms of, what's going to happen to us if we don't do this, if we don't submit to that, if we don't give over this freedom, or you know what I mean? Like, it's constantly happening. It's so weird. And again, I'll bring up the fact that he was talking about how this is a very slow process, and I'm sure it is, but we see cycles of this. Cycles, and I'm going to get to it more so as he tells you the rest of these warning signs or these steps, these 4 steps. But yeah, let's get back into that. He's about to go into destabilization.
Stabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation. What matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may.
So let's pause there. Just go into the meaning of the word destabilization. Make sure you guys can see it. The process of upsetting the stability of a region or system, especially of government. Now, instead of focusing towards a government being destabilized, just think about a society. Think about a community. How much has happened to us to destabilize us constantly, right? So now let's go to another bunch of words for destabilization: diminish, undermine, lessen, damage, minimize. How much do we, and maybe you don't feel this way, but how much do you see this in society in terms of how people feel about themselves, about their situation, about the government, just about their country, like completely? They feel diminished. They feel undermined because they don't feel listened to. They feel lessened because they don't feel listened to. They feel damaged because of what's been looming over their head in terms of what he's going to get into next, which is crisis. And again, it happens in cycles. It hasn't just been years of demoralization and then years of destabilization. I think that this happens in cycles. And this is going to make more sense why I keep saying this as he gets into the next part, which is crisis.
It takes only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely.
So he went pretty quick with the crisis because, I'm sure any of you can think of a certain crisis that's happened, and don't even think past 3 years. Think about 6 years ago, 9 years ago, 12 years ago. There's always a crisis. It's Y2K. Then it's an attack. Then it's SARS. Then it's this. Then it's that. It's constantly happening. So think about, let's go to crisis here. We all know what a crisis is, but I'm just going through the meaning of things just because it helps. A time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. Aren't we constantly being put in that state? You know, the planet's in trouble. The planet doesn't have much. We're about to hit a point of no return with the planet. Unless we act now, we have to act now. We're constantly being pushed that in front of us. Now, what's some other words for, like, just so you understand, it's just maybe because you're like, nah, it's not crisis all the time. What are some other words for crisis? Now look over here. Catastrophe, change, confrontation, constant confrontation happening. Crunch, deadlock, dilemma, disaster, emergency, impasse, mess, pressure, right? They're like, we're constantly in this state. And now, again, I'm going to go back because demoralization, that's what happens to you first. You're put into this state of confusion, intimidation, depression. Then destabilization happens. Once you don't have your morals intact, right? And you're confused and you're intimidated and you're depressed. You are now in a state of not being stable. That's why religion works so well. That's why having your core values in check works so well. Like, I actually have my core values written down so I can always look at them and remember when I'm feeling off track, I can look and say, am I meeting all my core values? Am I doing my core values by my wife, by my work, by my friends, by my family? Is it all in check? So it's very hard to destabilize me. But if you don't have any of that, it's very easy for you to become destabilized. And again, other words for that, you feel undermined, you feel lessened, you feel diminished. It's hard to feel diminished when you have your morals in check. When you have your morals all together, it's very hard for someone to make you feel less than, because you already know what your checklist in life is and you're meeting up to it. And then again, crisis. Right? And then he goes into normalization. When have we heard about that? Like the new normal, right? I'm going to let him explain more because there's more to the video, but how many times have we hit some kind of crisis and then we have to do something? There's a time of difficulty, trouble, danger, and then we have to either give up something or do something all in sync, all together in order to have some sense of normalcy again. I mean, I've heard the phrase in the past 4 years of you have to do X to have your freedom back. I've heard it so many times in all countries. I don't know. So let's just go back and let him explain it.
Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. Your leftists in United States, all this.
Never mind if the promises are able to be fulfilled. That right away makes me think of something like carbon tracking. Like the way it's like, if we all start tracking our carbon really, really closely, we'll be able to save the planet. And they make an impossible task, because then you forever have to be in lockstep with this protocol. It's not possible for us all to track our carbon and stay under a certain amount and never go over it. The only way that would happen is if we all stayed in a 15-minute radius of each other. Of a 15-minute radius of just our houses, right? That's where 15-minute cities come in, things like that. And we'd have to just continually do that because there's no way for us to really track our carbon and keep our carbon low. Especially when we have every single elite who's telling us to do this, flying in private jets all over the world. Just not possible. It's weird. And again, I just want to go back to the cycle. right? If you now you're back to normalization, right? You feel like you're normal again. Things are okay. That's where we are right now, in fact. Like, believe it, like, that's where we are right now. Going into 2024 or into 2023, we've hit normalcy again. People have calmed down. They've stopped yelling at each other in the middle of the streets about wearing masks and not wearing masks and this and that. All of that's worn down a little bit. But there's a new demoralization coming in, right? Because now, especially in America, what's going on? The elections are coming. They're coming. And your country's at stake. It's at stake. And something terrible might happen. And now you're in a sense of confusion, because now you're hearing from all these different people. You should vote for me. You should vote for me. You should vote for me. This side's horrible. Did you hear what this side did? Did you hear what that person did? Did you hear what that guy said? He's getting arrested. He's getting arrested. He fell up the stairs. We're in confusion, intimidation. There's depression from all of this. Especially people in Canada. They must be very depressed with how everything's going. Like, really depressed. Way more than people in America. So then you get to destabilization. It's easy to destabilize people. Again, it's easy to divide people when we're all in that state. Easy to destabilize and divide because we're all so confused. We all feel so intimidated. We all feel like we need to tribe up. We all feel like we're in danger. And then you go here, you feel lessened, you feel diminished, you feel lessened. When you feel like you're less than because you're not being listened to, you're being undermined by another side, what ends up happening? You feel like you're in a sense of crisis. There's a crisis going on. The country's at stake. And also this invisible enemy might come back. We never know. We never saw it to begin with, and it might just come back out of nowhere. And who's going to tell us that it came back? The media. So that crisis, again, all of a sudden there's going to be more change. You're going to have to confront this. You're going to feel a dilemma. There's going to be a disaster. There's an emergency happening. Do you know how many people who love Trump feel like there's an emergency going on because he's actively being silenced by, one side of the government? Or not even one side of the government, the media. Right? And then we're going to feel like we're back to normal. It's a wild thing. Here, let's go here. Haven't finished the video. Oops. Here.
These professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot. But they may turn into the most bitter enemies of Marxist-Leninists when they come to power. And that's what happened in Nicaragua. You remember most of these former Marxist-Leninists were either put to prison or one of them split, and now he's working against Sandinistas. It happened in Grenada when Maurice Bishop was already a Marxist. He was executed by a new Marxist who was more Marxist than this Marxist. Same happened in Afghanistan when first there was Taraki, he was killed by Amin, then Amin was killed by Babrak Karmal with the help of KGB. Same happened in Bangladesh when Mujibur Rahman, very pro-Soviet leftist, was assassinated by his own Marxist-Leninist military comrades. It's the same pattern everywhere. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster.
So, the last part that he brings up, and I've always wondered this as well, when you see people who are fighting for restrictions and they're fighting for anything from mandates to hate speech laws, and I always think to myself, where do they think this is going to go? Like, do you think that all of a sudden one side's going to be silenced and that same authoritarianism isn't going to spread to you? And how he explains it there makes perfect sense. They think they're going to be now in power, but that's never what happens. It's not what happens on either side. I made a video about this just yesterday. You're not on those sides. You're the people. And anything that, either side of the government decides in terms of restrictions or anything like that, mandates, restrictions, whatever, it's going to fall on the people. Like, it's not going to be, well, I voted for this guy, so I'm fine. There's going to be none of that. You're going to be subject to it too. And I always wonder, like, what do those people think? Like, for the past, 3 years, I've been watching people, and I'm like, what do they think's going to happen? Like, why do they want these restrictions so badly? Like, don't they realize it's going to happen to them too? Like, they're going to have to, bow down to the same thing. And we get so caught up in being tribes that we tend to forget that what happens to those goose on the other side is going to happen to this gander. It's going to happen to all of us. And we're almost at a point, and this was 1984 when he said this. We're at 2023. We're going into 2024 within months. And again, I'll say it. This goes in cycles. This is constantly happening. Again, let me go back here. I want to just do it again. Demoralization. You're feeling confused, intimidated, depressed. Then destabilization happens. The process of upsetting the stability of a region or system. Then you're feeling diminished, undermined, lessened, damaged, minimized. Then you go into crisis, a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. And then you're feeling the emergency, you're feeling the impasse, the mess, the pressure, the confrontation, the catastrophe, the change. And all you want when you're at that point of you're confused, you're depressed, you're demoralized, you're destabilized, there's a crisis going on. All you want is normalcy. And you'll do anything for it. You'll give up any liberty. You'll give up any amount of privacy as long as you can just be safe and normal again. I think this has been going on in a cycle of probably every 6 years, maybe every 7 years. This has been going on just over and over and over again. And I'm sure if you look back, I don't know how long you've been alive, but if you can look back to the 90s up until now, I'm sure there was always some kind of danger, some kind of crisis, some kind of threat, some kind of demoralization that was happening to your society, to your community, some kind of destabilization or state of feeling that you were unstable, that your economy was unstable, that your country was probably unstable, that anything could happen at any moment. And then you get hit with a crisis and it's like, oh my God, the thing that we all thought was going to happen is this is it. This is here. We're doomed. And then you do anything to get back to normal. Anything. I really do think that's been a cycle. This is one of the longer episodes. I do apologize. If you've watched this far, like the video. It helps so much. The algorithm has changed, and liking a video is almost equivalent to sharing it with a friend. So like the video if you like the video, and if you didn't like the video but you watched until now, you like the video. So hit that like button. And other than that, I am out.